James Michael Holder, born 1948 in Odessa, Texas. That's easy enough information to get, but how did Mike Holder get into golf? What was his first interest in golf? Was he very good at it when he started? How did he go from Odessa, Texas to Sapulpa, Oklahoma to Ardmore, Oklahoma? How on earth did he become a Oklahoma State Cowboy, turning down other offers and ending up here and being closer to his mentor, his eventual mentor? What is it about James Michael Holder that makes him so interesting? We sat down and talked to Mike for an hour and 45 minutes. It's going to be a good series, a long series, getting a chance to know everything there is to know that we could kind of ascertain from sitting down and talking to the man about everything that is Mike Holder. Let's check in with Coach. So where'd you grow up?
Odessa, Texas, in the Permian Basin, where all the oil is. I was born in Odessa. We lived in a Gulf oil camp in Goldsmith, which is pretty close to no trees, and it's well named. And I remember my dad bought the company house, moved it to Odessa. I started elementary school there, and then moved to Andrews. I got transferred to Andrews, which is 30 miles north of Odessa, and I went through the 6th grade there. He built a house there for $12,000. I always remember that. Had concrete block fence in the backyard. Used to catch quail back there, blue quail. It was all out war on them because those ran, they didn't fly. I remember that. He had a chinning bar in the backyard for me, and I should have used it more. But I loved it there in Andrews. He got transferred to Sapulpa, Oklahoma when I was in the 6th grade, and I cried from Andrews all the way to Sapulpa. But when I got there, I thought, wow, they have trees here. It's a different part of the world. And 7th grade, 8th grade, I was in Sapulpa, played football. I was a little chunky kid, so I was an offensive, defensive lineman, and played basketball. And went out for the wrestling team one day. Jerry Billings was wrestling coach, and I got enough of wrestling in one day, so I went back out and played basketball. And then you had to do a spring sport to play football, and they only had 2. They didn't have baseball, which I was a baseball player. I fancied myself to be one. They had golf and track, and being pudgy, I didn't think track was in my wheelhouse. So my dad had a set of golf clubs in the garage. I'd never seen him use them. I didn't know he ever played golf, but I knew they were there. So I came home and said, Dad, they're going to have tryouts for the 7th grade golf team. Can I use your golf clubs? He said, well, sure. And he took me out in the backyard, and he showed me the Varden grip. Well, I don't even know how he knew what a Varden grip was, and told me to keep my left arm straight. So the next day I took those clubs out to the first tee of the Sapulpa Municipal Golf Course and teed the ball up in the ground to qualify for the junior high golf team. First time I ever swung a golf club, it was live qualifying. And the way I remember it, there was a highway right there by the first hole coming into Sapulpa, and there was a telephone wires or electrical wires right along the highway, probably telephone wires. And I took a swing and I hit this slice, and I was worried about this creek right in front of us. I wanted to make sure I got it over that creek. It was probably 5 yards wide and just off the tee. But that mesmerized me. Wow, what if I hit it in that creek? So I hit this slice, and it hit one of those wires and fell back in the fairway, and off I went. Qualified for the team.
So it eventually ended up in Ardmore.
Yeah, right. My dad got transferred again when I started the 9th grade, and so I ended up in Ardmore, and I went through high school in Ardmore and played. Got to play at Dornick Hills Country Club as a member of the golf team. So great place to grow up and learn about golf and play golf.
So did you, minus Stillwater, because now obviously there's been a ton of years here in Stillwater, which is home? What is it? Is it Odessa? Is it Ardmore? Is it Sapulpa? When Coach says I'm going back home, where's back home?
Well, probably shouldn't say this, but if you're born in Texas, you're a Texan.
That's a great admission to start the show here.
Well, yeah, I grew up, hook 'em.
Really?
Oh yeah, my dad. Mom and Dad went to the the OU Texas game and came home. I couldn't believe it. Texas got beat by Oklahoma.
Siblings?
No, just me. I was an only child.
Only child. What Dad do for a living?
He worked in the oil field. He was just an oil field hand, roustabout, tool pusher. He worked on the derricks. He's the guy that stood on the top and moved the pipe. And that was before they had any safety nets, any kind of safety paraphernalia up there, no railings, nothing. You stood on two 2x4s and you worked 24 hours a day. Didn't matter if it was rain, snow, sleet, thunder, lightning. I mean, you never shut down. So the first golf tournament he went to once I was coaching, and he was retired because he had to work. He couldn't watch me play any sports. We shut the round down. Everybody started leaving the course because the clouds were coming from the west. We were in Hutchinson, Kansas. And he said, "What's all this about?" And I said, "Dad, there's a thunderstorm coming." And he said, "So what?"
We just got to get to work. What are we doing here?
Yeah, big deal. What are the odds?
Was he traditional home? Mom worked? Mom stayed at home?
Oh, yeah, Mom worked. Yeah.
And what'd she do?
Anything. She worked in department stores. My dad was pretty wild before he got married. He worked in the oil field, and a perfect week was work 5 days, make enough money to spend it in the honky-tonk that weekend, drink beer, whip everybody in the bar, and not get thrown in jail. That was a perfect week. So he met her in the boarding house for Gulf. All those guys working in the oil field. She was working in there as, I'm guessing, a waitress. And when he got serious about her and they got married, she settled him down, and he never saved a dollar, and she was very frugal. So we went off enlisted when World War II came along, and he was in the Navy. And when he came back, she had saved almost every penny out of every paycheck he had. And he'd never seen any money in the bank, so they never borrowed any money. They paid cash for any car or anything. Never made much, but saved a lot. And you didn't have any lights on in our house. It's like living in a cave. You rarely turned on a light. And air conditioning, no, that was just something you read about or heard about. We didn't do that.
Disciplinarians?
My mother was probably. My dad, he let me do anything.
Were you a good kid?
They thought I was.
That's a fair answer.
Yeah, they thought I was about perfect. I'm glad they don't know some of the things I did.
Never told them some of the bad stuff, huh?
Yeah, he probably in retrospect and kind of comparing with other people, no, I was just a normal kid. But college, I probably drank a little too much beer and did some things I shouldn't have done. When I got married, my wife straightened all that out.
Sounds like you followed your dad's suit and all of that. I want to get to that.
He got really lucky when he got married, and I did the same.
And meeting her in just a minute. But before we get there, holidays. Holidays a big deal in your house growing up?
Yeah, Christmas was. We'd all go to the grandmother's house, grandparents, and have Christmas. I remember that for quite a few years. But when we moved from West Texas to Oklahoma, that just stopped because we were too far. Everybody lived close by when we were in the Permian Basin. When we left there, we left our family behind. So I'm not really close with any of my cousins or any of my relatives, and just grew apart. It's about the only thing I can say.
Do you remember your favorite gift?
No, I just always looked forward to Christmas. Oh my gosh, I couldn't wait for Christmas. You get out of school and it's just those days, maybe it was a week. Oh, just excruciating, And nowadays, you just pass. You don't even notice them that they're gone, but they just crawled along back then. So I loved Christmas, look forward to it.
As a parent, was the same type of deal? Love seeing your daughter get a chance to enjoy a little Christmas?
Sure. Yeah.
So you're playing golf at Ardmore. Were you natural?
I don't know. I remember, right, wrong, or indifferent, I shot 50 that first 9 holes qualifying for the golf team there.
Remember the score. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't that low. I might not have added them all up, but I remember 50. But I played on that team, and my dad got me some lessons from Jack Higgins over at Meadowbrook Country Club in Tulsa, and I got better really fast because I worked at it. And I befriended a older gentleman there. I thought he was really old at the time. He was probably 35 years old, Benny Baker. And he taught me how to practice, how to get a shag bag or practice bag, how to go out and find the golf balls to put in there, and then how to pick them up with a wedge. I thought that was the neatest thing. You just carry your bag along and you pick them up with a wedge, bounce them into the bag. I thought I was, Ben Hogan and Arnold Palmer combined when I could do that. And then one of my biggest memories is I think Mark Hayes came to play in a match over there in Sapulpa, and I'd just heard about him. He was like a mythical figure. He was such a great player as a junior golfer. So I remember that. Roger Banzoff, I remember him. These are names that don't mean anything to anybody, but they just come out of your that vault back there in the back of your mind. People that had an impact on you. But I loved my time there in Sapulpa, and I was very upset when we moved to Ardmore because I didn't know where I'd have a chance to play. And my teacher, where I got lessons, was in Tulsa. But over a period of about a year, we worked it out where I could play at the country club in Ardmore. And we had a really good player from OU, Bruce Wilkinson. He had shot the course record at Dornick Hills, which was 62, and so that was another guy that I revered and admired.
Not related to Bud, was he?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wilkinson. It wasn't Wilkinson.
Okay,
Wilkinson.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, he was a great player there.
So
I looked up to him.
Coach Holder told us that his family, again, was very close, and you can hear that, but his family had to make a lot of sacrifices for his desire to play golf and to be a part of the golf team. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk a little bit about what Coach was like as a high school student coming up. Well, your mom was obviously very frugal, as you mentioned. Obviously, they found a way, get you clubs, get you the opportunity to play. I mean, so you say at least your dad. I don't know if your mom was equally willing, but to invest in the game that obviously you showed you had a lot of enjoyment for.
I couldn't have had better parents that'd do anything for me, anything. They'd do without for months just to make it so that I had a chance to play golf. They never got to see me play. They were always working, but they wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to pursue my dreams. And my dad made sure that I would, and Mom wanted me to get a college education because my father, even though he was a real good field hand, smart guy, worked hard, had everything that you're looking for to move up in an organization, you had that glass ceiling in a corporation like golf, big as it was. If you didn't have a college degree, you can only go so far, and he didn't want me to bump into that same glass ceiling, so it was always understood that I'd go get a college education.
Sapulpa, graduated from Ardmore, spent time in Sapulpa, Augusta, Texas. Did you keep up with those classmates? I was doing the math. Now help me out if I'm wrong here, but you probably have had a 50-year reunion.
Never been back to a reunion.
Never been back. Kept up with the classmates?
Not really.
How come?
Well, Ardmore, it's a town that's very, I'd say, cliquish, and I came in as an outsider. And I don't think that I was ever accepted. I was used to moving around and making new friends or trying to make new friends. It wasn't new to me, but Ardmore was a challenging environment, a place to become one of the kind of the in crowd. So I never was there, and I spent a lot of my time playing sports, particularly golf. So I only had really one good friend in high school, Gary Jackson, and out of that graduating class there, we were the only two that went to Oklahoma State. Everybody else either didn't go to college or went to Oklahoma, or maybe at Central State, someplace like that.
Do you think people in Ardmore know that Mike Holder graduated from Ardmore?
Probably not. I didn't register on the radar.
You're not in the gym somewhere. Your picture and proud home of Mike Holder.
You might find me at the back of a yearbook. Maybe. I doubt it.
So you're playing golf now. As you mentioned, it was obviously an intentional thing that you're going to go to college. At some point, did you get the attention of a few golf coaches that went, "Okay, this guy's pretty good"?
No, it was different back then. I didn't even know that you could be an All-American in golf. I thought that was just football and basketball players. That's how naive I was, and there really wasn't any recruiting. I took a visit to Oklahoma University because Bruce Wilkinson, as I said, he's from Ardmore and a great player, and he played for OU, and he told the coach there that, hey, I played with this young guy in Ardmore, he's not too bad. I went there. His name was Bud Cronin. He was an assistant basketball coach, and on the side he was a golf coach. So we played 9 holes, and then we played a little pickup basketball. And he offered me probably half to 3/4 of a scholarship, which was a really, really big deal. And so I thought that's where I would go. But our head professional in Ardmore at Dornick Hills was Chris Gears, and he played for Oklahoma State. And he said, whoa, 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 young fella, don't just go to Oklahoma because you've got an offer. Oklahoma State's a lot better in golf than Oklahoma. Well, I didn't know. And he said, I'll take you to Wichita in a week. We'll play in a Pro-Am up there, and I'll introduce you to Laban Harris, and we'll see if he's got some interest in you. So he made good on that. I met Coach Harris. He watched me hit a few practice balls there, and invited me to come to Stillwater, play and check out Lakeside Golf Course. So a couple of weeks later, my dad brought me up to Lakeside. We went out and hit a few practice balls. I played 9 holes with Coach Harris. And after we finished, he said, you know, and you got to understand how Coach Harris operated. He really threw scholarships around like 1,000-pound dumbbells. He didn't like to offer any kind of financial aid. Mark Hayes, who I mentioned earlier, now he got a scholarship, but he said, we don't really have a scholarship for you. I think I can get you an academic scholarship. There's a Trans-Mississippi Scholarship, which was a golf association that sponsored a big amateur golf tournament every year. And they give out scholarships, $500 a semester, I think it was, or maybe for a year, if you major in agronomy, turf grass. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and $500 sounded like a lot of money. So, okay, that's interesting. But that's all he offered. He made such an impression on me, that visit. And then I looked around that broken down old golf shop. He had a few sets of golf clubs displayed on the walls. In between those golf clubs, he had these All-American plaques. It's like an 8x10. And I thought, wow, you can make All-American in golf? I didn't see any of this in OU or Norman, Oklahoma. And then they had a national championship trophy on the mantle fireplace. Yeah. And I realized quickly that, whoa, this is a whole different deal about golf here. This is really serious. And so we left, and on the drive back to Ardmore, my dad said, son, I know they didn't offer you any financial aid there, and you have a pretty good deal at OU, but just know this, your mother and I saved our whole life for you to go to college.
Wow. So you get emotional when you talk about your dad saying we saved our whole lives. If this is where you want to go, we're here for you. Were you at the time? Did it hit you like that then? Were you cognizant enough of the magnitude of how that was going to potentially shape your entire life?
No, I knew that. You know, they had told me that I was going to go to college. I really didn't have a choice. So I don't think I really understood the magnitude of it, and I don't know what a college education was back then. I know. Say that was 1966. So in 1973, when I became the head coach, my whole budget was $27,000. So now, to put that in perspective for you, that included what they paid me, which was $6,500. Wow. That included all the scholarships, all the team travel, all the recruiting, all the equipment, all the memberships that we had to pay at Lakeside. So that all added up to $27,000. So, you know, I'm going to guess a full ride was probably worth $2,000, maybe, I don't know, maybe $2,500. Wasn't a lot, but back in those days, to my mother and father, it was a lot of money.
A ton of money, sure.
It's the same thing at Dornick Hills. It was $20 a month to join that golf course. Well, neither my mother or father played golf. So for the first year I was down there, I had to wait until golf season came around in March to play. And after I did that for a year, they figured out some way to pay the $20 a month to go out there just for me to play golf. And then I never will forget, occasionally they'd let me on the Saturday go upstairs in the dining room and order a cheeseburger. It's kind of the greatest thing ever. It's amazing. I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Simple things. I mean, the simple things are the ones that, you know, we get caught up in big things, but simple things mean a ton, obviously. So, Robbie, where'd you meet Robbie?
It's a long story.
And that's okay. I got time if you got
listen,
time.
This is you couldn't play as a freshman, so I didn't redshirt. I just didn't play. You had a few freshman matches, so you have 3 years of eligibility once you hit your sophomore year, and so you got 3 years of eligibility and 4 years to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to redshirt because I'd wanted to stay back a year when in junior high school or even high school. I wanted to play football. I wanted to play baseball. I was young for my age. I was barely 18. I had my 18th birthday, I think, the day before I left for college, so I was really young. So I'd wanted to redshirt. I wanted to mature. I realized that I was looking down the road at how good I might be that fifth year as opposed to how good I was that year. But they needed me. Mm-hmm. And so the first tournament of the spring, we went to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and we drove in a station wagon, 6 of us, 5 players and Coach Harris. That was, I could talk forever about that now. That's one entertaining fella. And you talk about smart. We play these games. He'd tell jokes and stories, but we play these games where you could just throw out any number you want to. You just start making them up, and we'd have someone assigned to write down the numbers. So you could say things like 3,422 divided by 36 times 22 and divided by 10 by the square root of whatever. Just make it up. Somebody's writing these down, and we didn't have a calculator. So after you'd come up with the sequence of numbers, you'd work on it and you'd say, okay. Now, and Coach Harris, I got to go back. He would spit the number out. As soon as whoever finished calling out the numbers, he'd tell you the answer. You knew the answer. And so you'd 3 minutes later, I'll be doggone. It's whatever the number is.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fascinating. And then tell stories. So we got to the tournament, and I was just mesmerized by this golf course because it was really hard. I hadn't seen anything quite like that other than Dornick Hills. And then we were going to play the national championship there in May or June. So this was a prelude to that. And the last hole of the tournament, it was a par 5 dogleg left. And I wasn't playing great that round, just okay. And I thought, well, I need to make an eagle on this last hole. It's par 5. I'll cut the dog leg. Well, the only problem was this out of bounds was right along the edge of the dog leg. And one thing you didn't do playing for Coach Harris was hit the ball out of bounds if there's a place somewhere else that you could hit with no penalty. Mm-hmm. And you had all of whatever county that was in Las Cruces to the right, but do not hit it left.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't quite make it over the out of bounds. The second one didn't quite make it over. I don't know how many I hit out of bounds, but it was too many.
Well, you have broken Coach's number 1 rule. Now what? How did Coach react? And what was the suggestion that you probably couldn't make today?
And so when he found out what I shot and how I did it, it was chilly. And then we had to drive. Can you imagine this? Drive from Las Cruces to Houston. Now, that's the same distance as to Los Angeles. It's a long drive. Texas is a big state. And it seemed like the whole way there, he was on me, pointing out how you're dumb as a post. I've told you, I'm not sure you're cut out for this game. He's all right on all these points. And then finally he started on, and I had no girlfriends. I only cared about golf. So I'd go to class, just get that out of the way, and then I'd go to the golf course, and I'd stay out there in the dark. And he knew that I had no interest in anything else, and he said, maybe you're just a lover.
I'm not sure you could say that in today's world, by the way.
A lover. Maybe you're just a lover. Maybe you should be worried about girls, And at the team meeting every year, it'd say, there's certain things that are going to be the bane of, we're going to have 8 freshmen here, and 2 of you are going to flunk out, and 3 of you are going to get a girlfriend and forget about you. And he named all these things that we're going to wipe out this freshman class. And here he's suggesting to me, I'm thinking I'm going to play the game for a living. He suggested maybe you should get a girlfriend. He said this next tournament, they have a king of the queens, the lover of the tournament, and maybe that's the role for you. And I thought, hey, it's just funning me, And we get there, and this is a really big deal. This tournament, back in that day, was on television. It had the pep band out there, the pom squad, the cheerleaders,
Wow.
I mean, it was a really big production, had 30 golf teams there. Nothing like it even today in today's world in college golf. And the coach there, Dave Williams, was a really big promoter. And the night before the tournament started, they had this huge extravaganza of a banquet. And as part of this, we walk into this banquet hall, and there's golf teams everywhere, dignitaries. It was a big deal for the community, too. And I noticed all these co-eds sitting over there at a big long table. There's a lot of those. And come to find out, we get ready to have the program, and the MC was a guy named Morris Frank, who was hilarious. He told a bunch of Aggie jokes, which go over really well down there. People are laughing. And then he said, well, before we get into the program tonight, we have an order of business. We need to name the King of the Queens, the lover of the tournament. And I went, holy smoke. There is such a thing.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't be me, right? And sure enough, Coach Harris, he did me in. And the guy says, yeah, this year we've got a young man whose name fits this role perfectly. His last name is Holder. Mr. Holder, would you get up? So I had to stand up, blushed, really shy. And Mr. Holder, would you go over and have a seat with your queen, your court over here, your queens? Oh, my goodness, I have to go sit with all these girls? What am I going to say? So I'll go over there and sit down. And then the order of the evening was the highlight. Every team captain went up to the podium and drew a name of one of these young women out, and that was your hostess for the week. She was your queen. She kind of hospitality, was nice to you. So Greer Jones was our captain, and he drew my wife's name out of the hat. So I didn't realize this time. I'm just traumatized because they keep drawing the names of the girls that I've met right by me that I can kind of carry on a conversation with, and they get up to go with some team. Now I have to move down and meet another one. I didn't think this evening was ever going to be over. So the next morning, we start the tournament, and the tournament in Las Cruces was 5 players, count 4, and this one was 4 players, count 4. Okay. And the odd man out was my roommate, Jim Young, and he decided to walk along and watch me play since he couldn't play. And Robbie, who was our hostess, he was the only person to talk to, so she just walked along and talked to him. And she watched all 18 holes, and after the round was over, he got the word that his grandfather passed away, so he had to leave to go to the funeral. And so Robbie comes out the next day, and she just follows my group again. I'm not paying any attention to her. And so the next day, she comes up to me and she said, hey, I caddy for my brother all the time. I don't know if she did or not. Would you like for me to caddy for you? And I said, no! I'm already in trouble with my coach. You need to stay away from me. Stay away, And so it was 4 rounds. And after the tournament was over, we loaded up in the station wagon and we went back to Stillwater. And she goes home and tells her roommate she's going to marry me. The next year, that was in April of my sophomore year, so the next April I go back down there to the same tournament.
Had not talked to her since?
Never talked to her. And same banquet. I don't get the lover of the tournament. That's good. That's a lot better. And we get another hostess, and she's drawn in by SMU, I think it was, but she came over and hung out with us, and I kind of sort of noticed her. And after that school year was over, I came down to see her in Houston, and then she I was living at Altus then, and then she came up to a football game that fall because University of Houston played in Stillwater. They had a great receiver, Elmo Wright, a really, really good football team. I think we beat them. And then I went back down to see her in Thanksgiving and got engaged.
So this would have been going into your senior season?
That was my junior year.
Junior year?
Yeah, and then so the next August, right before, no, I guess that's my senior year. And then the next August, we're married. Wow.
And
I tell people, there's 4 stages of marriage. And I figured this out when I hired the first basketball coach. There's a lot of sleepless nights as an AD, and I'm staring at the ceiling, and it just came to me like an epiphany. We're 4 stages of marriage. There's the first stage where when you get married, you're newlyweds, and you're lord of the castle. You run the show. You give orders. The world is right. It's the way it's supposed to be, right? Second stage of marriage, all of a sudden now you're collaborating or having conversations. It's kind of a partnership. You agree on everything or disagree, and you come to a compromise, right? Then there's the third stage. Holy smokes, she's making all the decisions. She's telling me what to do. She controls the purse strings and everything. And then the fourth stage is, wait a minute, that's the way it's always been. She just let me think that I had some influence or authority in the beginning.
Four stages 1 and 2 don't exist. They never really did exist, right?
Yeah. So once you finished your undergrad, you had to worry about your student deferment, what you were going to do. Were you going to get drafted? And I remember they had the lottery on television where you reach in there just like you do the lottery today. And so my number was 147. So whatever birth date was number 1, they started filling their quota for the year. And the question would be, would they get all the way to 147? And the year before, they had gotten, I think, 160 or 165.
Wow.
So I didn't know if I'd get drafted or not. And I went to my local draft board, and they said, if you'll stay in school, then we'll give you a heads up if it looks like your number's going to be called. And I thought, well, that's great, but I've got my undergrad degree. I got to get in graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in to see my advisor, Lawrence Ham. Most people probably are watching this and remember him, great teacher. And I said, Dr. Ham, he said, yes, sir, Mike. I'm thinking about getting an MBA. And he got this puzzled look on his face. Like, seriously?
This kid that didn't like school very much wants to go on?
He opened up his file cabinet and he reached in there to get the one with my name on it. And he popped it open and he started looking at my transcript and he said, you don't get into graduate school with these grades. And I said, but Dr. Ham, I'm a lot better student now. Look what I made this last semester, and those were the toughest classes. I've got the ability. He said, yeah, but it's hard to cover up this first, 4 years you went to school. I said, well, you've got a lot of influence around here. See what you can do. You can probably squeeze me in somehow. And he did. He got me in on probation. And so I started to work on my MBA, and I went that whole year without my draft number being called. And I was halfway through grad school, so I thought I might as well finish my MBA.
So did you go play pro at all?
No, I didn't. Because when I finished grad school, I got the job as coaching golf.
Right. So in that time, you didn't even go try and maybe qualify?
I was too busy trying to keep my head above water in grad school. And
so
working. I had to work a job to pay the bills.
Obviously, Coach Harris had been there a long time. You're finishing up your master's degree. How did did you ever have a conversation with him that, hey, I'm thinking about stepping down? How that even come about? Well, first, let me back up a little bit too. Somewhere in here is a story of James Wadley and hiring you or managing an apartment in a laundry or something. And I'm sure when James Wadley tells it, it's only 30% true. So I want to know your side.
Oh, no, give me more credit than that.
Love James Wadley's stories. They're fascinating.
Yeah, he's a fast talker.
Yes, he is.
Well, the only thing that Coach Harris, he just mentioned to me that he was going to retire and that I should apply. And I think my response was, well, they would never hire me. First of all, I'm too young. I have no experience, and I have no desire to coach. I want to play. My dream is to finish grad school, and granted, I haven't played much in 2 years, but go out there, work on my game, and go try to make a living playing pro golf. But I thought about it a little bit, and I decided, well, what have I got to lose? I'm right here in Stillwater. I'll go through the process. So I put my name in, and it came down to 3 candidates, me, Bobby Getz, and Bob Ellis. And those 2 guys both played golf here. They were probably 15 years older than me, maybe. They all had a family. They all had good jobs. Bob Getz was a head pro in Longview, Texas, and Bob Ellis had a teaching business down in Florida. And I think they thought the job paid a lot more than it did. I know I did. Mm-hmm. And they thought it was a lot more prestigious than probably in reality it was. And that all stemmed from how much we revered Laban Harris, thought of him, and enjoyed playing golf for him, And as I went through that process, the interviews, and it took forever. I mean, to drag the thing out 4 or 5 months, you didn't know what was going to go on. Finally, they brought me in and they offered me the job, and I thought, shucks, I must be pretty impressive. These other guys have a lot more credentials than I do. Why in the world would they pick me for this job? And then I figured it out. It only paid $6,500, and they probably thought that I could afford to take the job at that low number. I had one child, Michelle, and I was married, granted, but I'd had virtually no income, so I wasn't stepping down from anything. And these guys, I'm just guessing, made $15,000 or more in their current jobs. If they had been offered the job, I doubt if they could take it.
Yeah. And
I was so shocked by the low pay. I thought it would pay at least, and I remember I goes to my mind, it's $12,000. So Ed Glover was the comptroller, and I knew him. And so I went over to see him, and I said, Mr. Glover, they've offered me this job, but they've only offered me $6,500. I know that, for example, that tennis coach has to make more than that. I just want to know what I should be asking for, because this seems like a really low ball offer. He goes in the back room, he comes back out, and he said, you really don't want to know what that tennis coach is making. I said, yeah, I do. What's he making? Because I'm thinking it's $10,000, $12,000. He said he's making $4,500, and that was Wadley.
James Wadley, that's exactly right.
He had been on the job 1 year.
Wow.
But to make ends meet, he was managing Washington Square Apartments out there at the corner of Airport Road and Brewer Road. And so when I decided to take the job at the $6,500, they also offered me an opportunity to teach quarter time in the College of Business. I taught management, and they paid me $2,500 for that, so what's that, $9,000. And then James said, if you'll come out here and you'll help, ended up Robbie, will help manage the apartment complex, we'll give you free rent out here. I think is what we got there. So we didn't have to pay for apartment. We got to move out of married student housing. I mean, they had shag carpet. We thought we were in the penthouse. That was great.
So let's move into coaching. 1973. You remember your very first recruit?
Yeah, it was, well, Coach Harris got Tom Jones for me out of Tulsa. And, yeah, that was a really big deal. And then I tried to recruit Joe Walser's son, Steve. Joe played golf for us, and he was the head pro at, I think, Lake Hefner at the time in Oklahoma City. And Jim Autry was the golf coach at OU, and he had beaten me to the starting line and already had a commitment from Steve Walser. I mean, I just couldn't believe that one of our legacies we were going to play for the Sooners. But Coach Harris got me Tom Jones, who made first-team All-American his freshman year. And then that summer, Coach Harris took me and Roy Bays to Brazil to do some kind of barnstorming tours, and he gave some lessons. And I met Jamie Gonzalez over there. He was a great amateur player who never even thought about going to college. And I figured anybody that good, we could sure figure out a way to get him in school. So that was my first recruit.
1973, the tournament was at Stillwater, right? Stillwater Country Club?
Yeah, I got the job. They gave me the job, say, in May, and then the NCAA was in June, Coach Harris's last tournament.
Okay, so that was Coach's last tournament in 73.
Yeah, and then I took over in July and started recruiting everybody.
So the runner-up team was his last year at Stillwater Country Club, So obviously, you look, he won a championship in 1963, and then 1973 runner-up. So obviously you inherited a pretty good team.
Absolutely. But there were 4 seniors on that team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's why Tom Jones was a big deal, and Jamie Gonzalez being a great player that freshman year is a big deal. Actually, crazy as it sounds, Nebraska probably had the best golf team that year, that first year of mine, and then OU was real formidable. So when we managed to improve enough through the year to win the conference championship, that was a really big deal for us.
I want to go back to your relationship with Coach Harris. What was that relationship like? Was it player coach? Was it he was domineering? Was it he was instructional? Was he fatherly? What was your relationship with Coach Harris?
He was the best player on the team for as long as he coached until Greer Jones came along. He beat everybody. And he was ultimate competitor, and he had a work ethic second to none. So he worked harder than everybody on the team, and if you were willing to come out there and be around him, he would I mean, he just oozed knowledge, and so he forced me to get better. I was either going to get better or I'd quit.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a standard game, which was, well, he would play anybody for any amount of money in any of this part of the world. They, hustlers and gamblers would come from all over to play him.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But the standard deal for the golf team was you put up 25 cents, and he kept the money. And if you beat him, he got the golf balls for free, by the way. He would give you a brand new golf ball.
Wow.
Usually a Titleist. And so I showed up every day to try to beat that guy out of a golf ball. And he pounded me.
Wow.
So my freshman year, let's say, we're there 9 months, and so that's 270 days. I probably tried to play him 200. Every day I was here, I played him for a golf ball. And he beat me every single time. But along the way, just that competitiveness, he pulled me up to his level. And through osmosis, through hard work, through competitiveness, he identified those characteristics that it took to be really good, and he forced them out of you. And then once you got to the level where skill-wise you might have a chance to beat him, you could hit it further than him because he was 57 years old and stiff, but he had a great short game. So you could hit it further than him. You might hit the ball better than him, but he had a great short game, and he psychologically was a genius. He could talk you out of anything. So if you got down to the end and you had that, you could see that golf ball right there, you were about to grab it, he'd talk you out of it. He'd put doubt in your mind. He would put all those things in there in your head that you should never think about. So he taught you every facet of the game, and in the same process about life. So that's why I say seldom, rarely ever do you find a coach that would spend that much time with every single athlete. Anyone that was willing to come out there, invest their time, he would give you 24 hours every single day. Not 24, but 10 hours every single day.
Sure.
I'd say Dan Gable, what I know about him, he was the same kind of guy, They're just rare. And a lot of coaches are distant. He wasn't that. It was mano a mano, tooth and toenail. I mean, hand-to-hand combat, the whole bit, and serious stuff. And then he loved to needle you after he beat you. So you finished playing 9 holes, he had your money, then you'd go out to hit practice balls and you get to hear about it after that. And then his idea of helping you with your game is you get to watch him hit 50 balls and comment on, is my backswing a little longer, am I doing this, am I hitting it further, and then he'd watch you hit 2 balls.
So when you became the head coach, how much of that did you emulate?
Well, I think it's just human nature. You watch your coach all that time, and you think you're smarter than him. So I'm gonna change a lot of these things. I'm gonna do it differently, and I'll be doggone. 1 year, 5 years. The longer it went, the more like him I got. Yeah. He was a really, really smart guy.
So, because it's funny, because you and I were having a conversation before we even started this. Sometimes coaches think they're the smartest people in the room, and sometimes they are. So, but even you were susceptible to that, at least initially.
Sure, everyone is. Rare is someone mature enough to overcome human nature. There's that quote that I love. It says, "If youth knew, if age could." That's the story of coaching, education, and life right there in a nutshell, just a few words. If youth knew, if age could. If I knew what I know now, back when I was 23 years old, give me the same players again. I don't want to change careers. I don't want to go play the PGA Tour. You could tell me that I would be very successful, making a lot of money. I'd tell you I'd rather do what I did. I just want to do it better. And I would really like to go back and be in junior high school again or grade school again and relive all that. But for darn sure, go back to Oklahoma State University and play 4 years for Laban Harris and really, really appreciate and understand the gift that I was given in those 4 years. And as an athletic director, if there's anything that frames or shapes my beliefs and my philosophy, it's that. It's founded in every athlete's important. It's not just football and basketball players. Every athlete, male, female, doesn't make any difference. They're all important. They all have the same dreams, hopes, aspirations. If you have someone that wants to be great and is dreaming big, then you need to embrace them and give them the opportunity to achieve their dreams and greatness, whatever that looks like. And I got that from Coach Harris, that appreciation of what he gave me and how much that meant to me in my life. I want that for all our athletes.
Did you, again, the shyness in which your social side had and meeting Robbie and talking about that, did that appear, or did that did it affect you as a coach initially? Because
sure.
It did. But see, that surprised me because you were so serious and so intentional and so purposeful in your golf game that I would think that you'd be okay there.
Oh, I was so immature in so many ways. I was traumatized the first team meeting we had for his freshman year. We'd go in the back room of the clubhouse, and there's probably 30 golfers in there, all different classifications, trying out for the team. Some had been on the team, some were new like me. And Coach Harris had every single one of us stand up and give our name and where we're from. Holy smokes. I have to get up in front of all these people and say something.
Right.
I was petrified.
Well, what about as a coach that first year? Even then? Or had you kind of overgotten?
Yeah, no, it bothered me. And so the same meeting, same circumstances, 30 probably athletes on our team. And the gift that Coach Harris gave me was he came to that meeting with me and he said, I'm going to introduce your new coach. And I'd been teammates with a few of those guys.
Yeah.
So this is Mike Holder. He's no longer Mike. He's no longer your friend. He's your coach, and you'll refer to him as Mr. Holder or Coach Holder. And he walked out of the room. And he never offered me any advice unless I asked for it. He never meddled in anything. He turned the whole program over to me. And gosh, the older I got, the more I appreciated that, because it's so hard for someone, well, like him. He founded the program in 1947, and he had been the only coach. And he coached 27 years, and he shouldn't have retired. He was only 65 years old, and he was still playing high-level golf, but I don't know if it was mandatory or somebody convinced him he's too old to coach, but he stepped down. I think in his prime, should have kept right on coaching. But he never meddled. How hard is that to do when it's yours and you've built it to what it is today?
And okay, so again, and that obviously opens up a door and a huge question about your style, because you and I have had this conversation. We had this conversation when you came on when Coach Underwood left. You came on and you and I had a really, really candid conversation, one that I still tell you is I've got more response from that one conversation than any conversation I've had on the radio. But in that, we talked about the fact that the pressure that exists for golf coaches at Oklahoma State, because the former golf coach of 32 years and an 8-time national champion is there. And there's a presumption that you still have major influence. But as I've gotten to know you, you have said to me many times, and some people raise it, when I say this to other people, they go, come on, seriously? You let coaches coach. You let your golf coaches coach. Even though I know there's an innate pressure because you're there, and they do have admiration for you and what you did there.
No,
but
I'm not so sure.
I think they do. I no doubt Mike McGraw did, and there's no doubt Alan Bratton does. So there's such an incredible pressure there. They will tell you there's more internal pressure from themselves than there's any from anywhere else. But there's got to be pressure because you're there, because of what you did. Even if you don't medal,
Probably.
it's still there, right?
Probably.
But you didn't. But you didn't feel that from Coach Harris, at all.
Well, I wanted to be better than him. I mean, he instilled that in me. I tried to beat him every day out of that quarter. I darn sure wanted to be a better golf coach than him. And so I set about trying to do better than him. And I had an advantage. He was so frugal and never gave his full allotment of scholarships. And I realized that and he was better at developing talent than I was. But I made up my mind I was going to be more like the coach at Houston. And I was going to recruit some real players and see where that took me. So that first year we finished 5th in the nation. The second year we finished 2nd. The third year we won the national championship, and we should have won probably the next 8 in a row. You know, I should have won every one of them. I got a little, maybe it came too easy. You know, maybe I didn't appreciate it. Maybe I just like immaturity, all that stuff. But I give Coach Harris the credit for all that. He put that in me. My parents put that in me, that competitive nature. And what I want as an athletic director is for all of our athletes, regardless of sport, to have the experience that I had. And to have that experience, you must have difference makers as coaches. People that it's about life lessons and totally immersing yourself in the lives of your athletes, really caring about them, loving them. And we've got a lot of role models that, in my opinion, are as good as there is anywhere in athletics in our country today that are coaching our young men and our young women. I wouldn't know where to start to tell you who the best is. I just know that we're blessed to have a lot of great ones.
Sharing in that national championship in 1976, your mom, dad, Coach Harris, who'd you call? What was the celebration like then?
It wasn't anything.
Why?
I don't know. It's never like you dream about, you know. I mean, yeah, it was euphoric. You feel great. You finally did it. You weren't sure you could ever do it. We beat one of the great teams in the history of college golf. They hadn't been beaten in 2 years in Wake Forest, and it was a huge upset. But as soon as it was over, I could tell you that there some things happened that were probably we shouldn't be talking about. But
oh, now you got to make me ask.
Yeah, no, I can't talk about that. But you're on to the next one. You know, now I got one. I'm tied with Coach Harris. I want to get more. So and I really wanted to beat Dave Williams. He won 16 of them, and I set about doing that. And I'm disappointed that I didn't get 17. He got a few of them at my expense. The guy was a good coach. And
I want to talk about him. But so when you see Nick Saban walk off a national championship football field and go, hey, Coach, you know, what an effort here, what a job. And he says, yeah, now I got to get to my office and start thinking about next year.
Well, yeah,
is there a shame in that, though?
No.
Seriously?
No.
You can't. Can you not enjoy it a little bit?
Well, the enjoyment's the journey. Every single day you spend with your athletes and the whole process. And then when you get to the end and you do it, that's just affirmation, positive affirmation that the processes you're going through is good. Now, there's ways to make it better. So I'm sure Nick Saban, as soon as he turns the page, is ready to do some things differently so he can be better the next year.
So Mike Holder, the athletic director, let me ask you this. I even said this on my daily show. I actually said this on Steve Daniels' show this week. He said to me, we were just talking about baseball, and I was quoting loosely Josh Holliday. And Josh Holliday said, I am not sad, I am proud. Proud of the way this team came together, the team unity that it was. And then he went on to say, we won this season. And I said, I have an appreciation for a coach that can look at his team and say, we got what we really could from this group. Would we have loved to beat Tech and go to Omaha? Sure. Win the national championship? That's what we all dream for. But it never seems to me coaches are ever really satisfied. They never look at that team and go, yep, this team gave me everything, and we finished, and I am truly satisfied. And when they win national championships, if they're turning the page going into next year, I kind of look at that and go, that's sad to me. It doesn't seem to me. Now, if you're truly enjoying the journey, then there's a great satisfaction in that. And I appreciate that about you saying that and coaches that can do that. But in today's world, with the pressure and the money and the politics and the television, it doesn't seem to me anybody really enjoys the journey as they should. But is that okay for a coach to say, hey, we won the season, didn't win the championship, but we won the season because the journey was what it needed to be for us with this team this year?
Well, do you want your son to play for him?
Absolutely.
Okay, there's your answer. Would you like to play for him?
Absolutely.
Okay, there's your answer.
So there is an okay with not winning at all.
You're not going well. Some coaches show you that you can win almost all the time. It's hard in every sport, but you get to a certain level, yeah, you can win almost all the time. But I don't think you necessarily put all your eggs in the win-loss basket. That's not a lot of satisfaction in that. You got a lot of hardware on the shelf. What does that mean? It's all about the memories and the people. And
I have seen an ever so, and I almost don't want to say this to you because it sounds like it's a knock, and it's not, but there's an ever bit so slight change in a guy like John Smith, who at one point was at second place trophy goes in the trash. We win championships or we win nothing at Oklahoma State. That's who we are. And then a few years ago, they finished fifth, and I remember interviewing him and going, Coach, I'm not sure if this should be congratulatory or a feel sorry, that you guys didn't have a good season. He said, no, we really did have a good year. And to me, that's a growth in maturity, but it's at the fear of someone such as yourself going, well, you've lost your fire. If fifth is okay, then you've lost your fire. I guess that's why I wonder, where is that happy medium that, no, I'm not happy with losing and not being number one, but I've also got to understand that it's not going to happen every year, and I've got to make sure that my guys, because players are different now, that they understand that as long as they truly do give me what they can, they participate in the classroom, they're not trouble off the field, and they give me all they have and they come to practice every day, I really am okay with them.
well,
That's a fine line.
no, there's two parts to that equation that you're alluding to that gets you the result. You got the coaching part. What do you do with the young men that you have on your team that year? That's one part of it. The other part is, how hard did you work and how good a job did you do recruiting this group? Because how well you do over here on this end determines what the upside potential is for your coaching ability to really shine through. So you can be the greatest coach in the universe if you don't have talent to work with. You're not going to win at the highest level. Talent will always trump coaching, always. Now, if you have equal talent, close to equal talent, then coaching's really going to shine through to show you who the winner is. So I think the challenge for a coach like John, the realization that this was probably as good as we could do this year, okay, I get that. I understand it. Did a great job. That's a whole dynamic associated with that. We got to do a better job recruiting. If you're going to beat Penn State or whoever, right now Penn State's setting the standard, you got to recruit. You got to get the same kind of talent coming in the front door that they're getting. If you do that, then it's going to come down to who does a better job, Cale Sanderson or John Smith. I like John Smith.
Some great conversations with Mike Holder about so many things, learning his upbringing and the appreciation that he had for his mom and his dad and the sacrifices that they made for him to become a college athlete, to the appreciation he has for Laban Harris and just the influence that Coach Harris had on his life. The influence of Robbie Holder and how they came together and just how incredible that was. And then the legacy that he leaves, standing here in front of the Ring of Honor at Oklahoma State here at Karsten Creek, and you think about all the great golfers that have come through this program, many of which he recruited, many of which he played with, the championships that have been won here, and just the legacy that Coach Holder is going to leave. Karsten Creek is an incredible place. Oklahoma State athletics and that athletic village is now an incredible place, and Coach Holder's legacy undoubtedly is going to be one as equal in credibility, just what he's been able to do for Oklahoma State. That's going to do it for this week. Next time, we get another opportunity to talk to someone who has been shaped by Stillwater and has done the same thing. And next time when we see you right here on TV 3101.